What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with Cheesehead TV in your Packers Daily Chat live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are as a Packers fan. That's where we try to find you. It's Thursday. The Packers are in the midst of a practice, or probably just wrapping up at this point. We are going early today because we are also doing our Madden preview later this afternoon, so make sure you come by for that. Corey Behnke will be attending the game this weekend, which means he flies out on Friday, which means there needs to be a Madden preview today. See some people already chiming in on the chat. Nicholas checking in from Brazil. What's up? Thanks so much for stopping by and making Cheesehead TV part of your afternoon. The news, as is evident in the headline here today, Kevin King placed on injured reserve, ending his season for the second year in a row. Now, obviously, these are different injuries, but it's disconcerting to see a guy unable to stay on the field, unable to help his team for the second season. Been in the year two leagues, been in the league 2 years, ended both years on injured reserve. Obviously, it's still early in his career, but it's unfortunate and disconcerting, to say the least. Hi from Mississippi. What's up, David? Hey, Aaron, any idea what Mike told the team today when he spoke to them? Actually, Nicole, he spoke to the team yesterday. Joe Philbin mentioned it today in his press conference. I thought that was incredibly generous and classy of the Packers to allow him to do so. That is very unusual for a fired coach to be allowed to back into the facility to address the team and the coaches, as McCarthy did yesterday. As for the content of the meeting, I have no idea. I'm sure I will be given a lot of no comments when I ask players that I know about it, but I will definitely try to endeavor to get some kind of idea about what was said. That said, Joe Philbin painted a pretty good picture, saying Mike talked about his passion for the game, his love of the players, just a class act all the way from McCarthy. And like I said, I think that was very generous of the Packers to allow him to do so. Get some closure on it, allow Mike a chance to say goodbye. It was a very sudden exit Sunday night, so I think that was a good move for all parties involved. Did you see what Chris Carter said about Josh McDaniels to the Packers? I generally, if you start a question with did you see/hear what Chris Carter said or did, you can bet the answer is going to be no. I don't have much headspace as it is for keeping track of things, and Chris Carter, there isn't enough room for that. Sorry. What's up, Nags? What's up, Nick? Thanks for jumping on. Matt, of course, is what I do. Hi, Coach Nagler. Oh, boy, here we go. Congratulations on taking the assistant head coach position. You deserve it. Eduardo, I will not settle for assistant head coach. I'm going all the way. My candidacy has begun. I'm going to be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers in 2019. Matt Bowen is going to be my defensive coordinator. Corey Behnke is going to be my special teams coach. And we're going all the way. Or something. What's up, California? What's up, Jay? Thanks for checking in. Rainy Arizona, Tyler. It's cold in New York, I'll tell you that. In a situation like Kevin King, where a drafted player becomes injury prone right out of the gate, how long do you think the organization can be patient with the player until they decide to cut him? Ernesto, I would be very surprised if they cut him outright anytime soon. He's on a 4-year contract. He gets progressively kind of cheaper as the years go on, as far as guaranteed money goes. I think they would allow him to play out his rookie deal and see where they are. Now, maybe he turns it around and stays on the field for 16 games, both his next 2 seasons, and finishes out strong and gets an extension. We got to let it play out. And it is definitely frustrating how his career has started, but he still is a very young player. Ken. I think you're being a little harsh there, Ken. Hey, Aaron, Rodgers' response about him telling Mike McCarthy to call him out in team meetings is laughable. A strong coach does not need a player's permission or suggestion to call him out. Ken, you're assuming that Mike McCarthy wasn't doing that anyway, and you're also assuming that this wasn't in the course of a conversation where they were talking about it. I get it. We're going to nitpick every little utterance coming out of 1265 Lombardi for the foreseeable future. While this franchise is in a bit of turmoil, every little thing that gets exposed and put into the public light is going to get torn apart and dissected. But whoa, Daddy, people need to step back a little bit. I don't think that suggestion is laughable at all. I think it's smart on Rodgers' part to say, give me the brunt of it so everyone sees that we're all on equal footing. Nothing wrong with that. You know who else did that? Bart Starr to Vince Lombardi. So does that make Vince Lombardi laughable or Bart Starr laughable? I don't think so. Context, man. Slow down. What veteran player will be negatively impacted the most with McCarthy gone? Allison, wow, that's a question. Negatively impacted. Man, I don't know. I mean, the initial kind of splash the water to the face response to that would be Davante Adams, because they've been featuring him so much. Maybe his production dips a little bit if Philbin and or Rodgers start spreading the ball around a little bit more. That said, I doubt it. I mean, I can't, immediately, I don't know. Now, long term, maybe there are some favorites that McCarthy had. Maybe some of the younger guys get on the field more at the expense of some of the veterans, et cetera. But I can't think of an immediate kind of negative connotation that any of the veterans or any of the players will have because of Mike's departure. I think we have to see how things play out. Obviously, it's a great mystery how they're going to attack things on offense. But yeah, it's a good question. I think one that can only be kind of seen over time. What Packer players legitimately deserve to be Pro Bowlers? That's a good question, Northwoods. I will say Kenny Clark, Corey Linsley, Davante Adams, and there's one more, Aaron Jones. Probably those four. I think the Packers should hold on to Breeland next season. Yeah, he's been up and down, hasn't he? I think they'll probably, I would think they'd bring him back, just put him in the mix, so to speak, especially when you got Kevin King unable to stay on the field. And I do wonder how much he's would benefit from a full offseason in whatever program they end up, whatever system they end up in. Clearly he came in late. It took a long time to get him on the field, both getting him up to speed on the defense and then the hamstring injury he suffered seemingly the moment he walked in the door. But yeah, I think they would. I think they've had a positive experience with him. Who is the more important to the Packers' future, Goody or the next head coach? Woo, that's a good question, Dustin. Man, probably the next head coach, just because Gutekunst doesn't have the ability to hire or fire him. And the head coach, whoever it ends up being, has the most direct effect on what happens on the field every given Sunday. So while Gutekunst undoubtedly plays a major role and a majorly important role, it's hard not to say the next head coach. Now, where Gutekunst does come in, and something I continue to wonder about given the current structure of the front office, when does Gutekunst just get to decide when it's time to pull the trigger on finding Rodgers' successor? And is he allowed to do that? I mean, he's been given complete control and total control of the 53-man roster. That is his purview. And that is the charge from Mark Murphy. But does that mean he's allowed to just pick the successor whenever he wants? And then, without input from Mark Murphy? I mean, I would assume so, and I would hope so. But Murphy seems to be creeping a little bit further along into that football side of things, and that's a major football decision. So, I don't know, fun times at 1265 Lombardi. But I would say right now, the answer to that question would probably be the next head coach. But see what the hire's like. Will Philbin play Kumaro more? Daniel, I hope so. We all need touchdown Jesus in our lives. I do think it was funny how hyped up we as fans got for Kumaro, and then he played all of 5 snaps on Sunday. That sucked, man. Especially after watching MVS and EQ drop footballs early on. You can't get Kumaro more than 5 snaps? Guy who caught everything in practice and in camp and preseason? Made big play after big play? Come on, get him on the field. What are your thoughts about Jimmy Graham? Is this the season you thought he'd have? Yes and no. Yes, it's the season I thought he would have in regards to his production overall, especially between the 20s. It's not what I expected as far as his being featured in the red zone. I did think they would design a lot more for him. I did think Aaron would look for him a lot more. Now, he has at times, but not nearly as much as I thought they would. I thought they were really going to try and feed him the football, so to speak, in the red zone. And for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. Now, maybe it's Aaron's reticence to throw 50-50 balls. Maybe they just haven't been on the same page. Maybe they've been using him as a decoy. All those things could be true. But coming off the season he had last year where it was clear that his best use was in the red zone catching touchdowns, I thought for sure that was the whole reason he was brought in. And again, for a mix of reasons, that just hasn't materialized. So that to me has been a bit surprising. Would you get ahead of it and re-sign Martinez early? Yeah, probably. He's been productive, if not, dynamic. But yes. BJ Raji for the next head coach. Dominic, never been a better time to switch over to Twitter and see what they're saying over there. Let's see what's going on the tweet machine. Kyle starts us off with, how unbearable will the anonymous airing of dirty laundry to the media be this offseason? Kyle, I can't wait. It's going to be delicious. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there'll be one or two stories and things will come out and we'll ride the wave and it'll be a good time. And I tell you what, this offseason is going to be one of those times when, as a Packers fan, you got to rally, you got to circle those wagons and get ready to defend the land because holy cow, people are going to come for you. There's going to be Bears fans after you. There's going to be Vikings fans after you. There's going to be Seahawks fans, probably Patriots fans, Cowboys fans, everybody who the Packers have either gone against, have been major rivals of, who they've had, big defeats or big losses against. All those fan bases, they're coming for you this offseason. So get ready for it. And this kind of thing that you're asking about here, Kyle, where, we're going to hear stuff about factions within this, the building, etc. All that's going to come up. That's going to be like red meat for these rival fan bases to come after Green Bay Packers fans. And I'm just here to remind you, you have more championships. Your team has more championships than any other squad in the NFL. 13. They can go kiss it for all I care. Just remember that. Be proud of your team. I'm thinking that with this coaching change, Rodgers will basically be managing the offense in accordance to his vision. May that be in planning for the opposition or calling plays mid-game. It has got to be like a breath of fresh air. I'm not so sure I agree with that prediction or NFL predictions. We'll see what happens on the field on Sunday. If Joe hasn't called plays in 20 years, why would he be our offensive coordinator? Well, Andy, because, he has a play caller as a head coach, or he did. Don't forget, people talking about Joe Philbin and the fact that he hasn't called plays. He didn't call plays back in 2011 when they had the highest scoring offense in league history and one of the most efficient squads ever on offense. That was his ability to input and step back and see things and to suggest things to Mike and game flow, game management situation things, etc. He wasn't there to call plays. Never has been. It's like Sherm Lewis back in the day with Mike Holmgren. Sherm didn't call the plays either, but he was the offensive coordinator. What are the differences between a head coach calling the plays and an offensive coordinator calling them? Does it actually matter who calls them? It does in the sense that they got to have a good sense of flow. They got to have a good sense of timing. They have a good sense of how to set things up and get good matchups, take advantage of deficiencies in the defense, to see how they're reacting to certain calls and adjust accordingly. So all that said, doesn't matter if it's a head coach or an OC. We've seen a new wave now of young guys who have kind of grown up with it, whether it's Shanahan or McVay, et cetera, who are just seeped in it, who are able to play, who are able to call the plays and manage the game at the same time. That said, some of the best coaches in the league, whether it's Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, they're not calling the plays, so to speak. They're managing the game. They're managing the team. That's what Mike McCarthy tried to do when he handed off play calling to Tom Clements a couple years ago, and obviously that didn't work. Some guys are just born for it. But it could be argued that is a brain drain a little bit and hinders their ability to manage other aspects of the game. After that NFL films clip of Belichick on the sideline talking with his defensive line came out, I got so many comments about, we never see clips like that with Mike McCarthy. It's like, yeah, because McCarthy's focus is someplace else. He's worried about his down and distance calls and what's working well and getting adjustments for the coverages he's seeing and how he can counter those things, etc. That's where his head's at. Bill Belichick's head isn't there because he's not a play caller. It really depends on personal preference. How does Blake Martinez compare to elite inside linebackers throughout the NFL? I haven't heard him get the praise guys like Kenny Clark and Devontae Adams have this season, but he always looks great on the field. I would suggest going, and if you get a chance, go on NFL Game Pass and watch the coaches tape and focus on Blake Martinez. And I think you'll understand why he hasn't been given the same praise as Kenny Clark and Devontae Adams. A lot of times you'll see Martinez on Sundays flying in and making a tackle, and afterwards he's really pumped up and the camera focuses on him and the guys in the booth talk about it and, well, he's having a real productive year, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all true. But there are plenty of times when that isn't happening, where he is getting washed out by usually an interior lineman getting up to the second level. Now, and that's obviously not on him, but once a guy gets up on him, he's got to be able to shed it. He's got to be able to get off and make a play. And, more often than not, that doesn't happen. When he is clean, he is great. When he gets muddy and dirty and guys get up on him, he can be erased. And that, if you're asking about comparing him to the elite inside linebackers, that just doesn't happen to the best of the best. It doesn't happen to Bobby Wagner. That doesn't happen to Luke Kuechly. Those guys get off of blocks. Those guys anticipate. Those guys get to a spot where they can't get blocked because they know through tape study and through adjustments and through reading the quarterback, et cetera, reading their keys, they know where the play is going before it even goes there. Those are what the elite level guys are doing that, where Blake, very productive, and I think he's a good football player. But if he wants to become elite and he wants to take that next step, that is the big part of his game that needs to change. He cannot allow himself to be erased as much as he is. Do you miss having the ability to ask questions to the coaches and players? Jonathan, a little bit. I tell you what, I would have loved to have been at the scrum with Rodgers these last 2 weeks. I would have loved to be at that press conference that Joe Philbin gave, his first day on the beat, or as an interim head coach. I would have loved to have been at that press conference with Murphy and Gutekunst the other day. But, for the most part, it's 2018. The internet exists. I still talk to a lot of guys. I still have back and forth with a lot of people in the organization. So, that part of it is nice. And I still, get to ask people things if I'm curious. But as far as in a media setting for consumption of stuff I can turn into content, yeah, I kind of miss it. Not insanely, but a little bit. Let's see what's going on over here in the live chat. Will we ever find out why Cole Madison sat out this year? I tend to doubt it. I mean, that's a thing where, Cole, they always said it was a personal reason. You can't say anything except it's a personal thing. And I'm sure the Packers will deal with the league office in regards to their draft pick and what happens there. But yeah, I don't know if that'll ever come out for public consumption. Play calling is overrated. Just ask Madden. Nice. I like it. Dream head coach, OC, and DC. William, the dream for me is they hire Vic Fangio to be the head coach. And he keeps petting on as his defensive coordinator, though he's not going to do that. But this is my dream. And then Zach Taylor is brought on as offensive coordinator. Hey, a guy can dream, right? If the Raiders cut Jordy, do you see him coming back? No. Should we hire a run-oriented coach so we can take pressure off of 12? Craig, that's a really good suggestion. In 2018, the rules set up the way they are. Offense is putting up, Star Wars numbers, as Jim Irsay called them back in the day. It's really hard to advocate finding a ground and pound offensive system. But that said, I do think they need to find someone who is committed to taking pressure off of Rodgers regardless, whether it is with the running game, whether it is short passes, etc. He's getting older and he needs more help than he used to. I think Sean McVay is a perfect example of a guy. He's got a guy in Gurley who he features and knows when to use him and how to use him and when to ride him and when it's time to button it up and pound the football and when it's time to open it up and get going. But that helps his young quarterback. I mean, I think something along those lines would be very beneficial to an older quarterback, such as Rodgers. Packers need to draft a bunch of linebackers and D linemen. Time for the defense to sign sure tacklers, sideline to sideline players. Timmy, I do agree with the overall sentiment that, it's funny because the Packers have just had some poor tacklers for seems like forever. And to me, the more you look at it, it's just all about drafting solid tacklers. guys who are tackle machines in college, guys who are really good at the art of tackling in college. Because once you get to the pros, you don't have the time to rep it, to teach it. It's got to be innate. It's got to be in you. You see it on other teams. You see teams that have really good, sound tackling, and it's not because they have, just insanely better teaching on their sidelines and their coaching staffs. Mostly, now some of it is because those teams emphasize that in practice, maybe more than the Packers have. But for the most part, it's just about drafting good tacklers. And until they put an emphasis on that, I think we're going to continue to see some of the shoddy stuff we've seen throughout the years. Do you think they'll go with a wide receiver with a second first-round pick? You never say never. It's impossible to box it in, especially a month remaining in the season, let alone months and months until April when the draft actually happens. I would just suggest not looking at it that way. Don't think, well, we've got to get these positions in the first round. First of all, we got to find out where their spots are going to be. They are going to have 2 picks. And then we got to see how the draft shakes out, see who actually declares, see who goes back to school, see who is available in the realm, tiers-wise. Like, if there are 3 great wide receivers that fall into the late first round, maybe they're tempted by it. But there was such a long way to go. Don't think there's any need to box their positions in just yet. The linebacker Dallas drafted recently is a beast. Stretch, I agree. He's turned out quite well for them. I'll root for them to win, but hope they lose. It's fine by me, Daniel. Far be it for me to tell anyone how to be a fan. You go about it however you want to go about it. Cool. When and where is the next Nagler DJ set? That'll be December 22nd at Let Love In Astoria. Be there. Can the Packers interview candidates while playoffs are going on? They can, Julian. There's a whole lot. They have actually adjusted a lot of the rules around that. It used to be you couldn't interview anybody until their season was over. Now they have relaxed those rules quite a bit, and now there are allowances for interviewing guys who are on staffs that are in the playoffs once early on, and then they can do it so again as the playoffs move on, etc. If they want to bring guys back for a second interview, etc. So it used to be very buttoned up. It's a little bit looser now, but it's still kind of prohibitive and annoying. When will the media start talking about Terry Bradshaw's prediction that Rodgers would start throwing low and inaccurate due to his knee injury? Why would the media talk about Terry Bradshaw saying something? I don't get it. Will Mercedes get a real chance in a whole game? I doubt it. We'll see. But yeah, I would definitely doubt it. Sucks for Alex Smith, man. Can I just say this? The Alex Smith news this morning was really disheartening. For those of you who don't know, Smith is still in the hospital after surgery that he had days and days ago after he broke his leg. It's coming out now that he's suffered an infection due to the surgery, and they've asked for privacy, etc. And of course, you want to give him that. But I will say this: just remember this the next time, and you see this a lot online when people report so-and-so had a successful surgery. Oh, is there any other kind? Blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, of course it was successful. They always have successful surgeries. No, they don't. Sometimes. Maybe it's once in a million. But sometimes things go wrong. And then something like this happens. And it's awful. Every time a guy has a successful surgery, that's great news. I just feel horrible for Alex Smith and his family, and I hope everything comes together for him. More important fix, the offensive line or the pass rush, and should Murphy be able to see the game plan? Daniel, that's 2 questions. Let's go. More important fix, O-line or the pass rush? I'd say the offensive line, especially the right side. Should Murphy be able to see the game plan? No, I wouldn't think so. I know he said his very first response when asked what he would be doing months and months and months ago when they asked, well, what are you going to be talking to Mike McCarthy about every week? He said, game plan. Now, I don't know if he was serious. I don't know if that was off the cuff or what. But yeah, no. The president and CEO shouldn't be anywhere near the game plan. And if he is getting the game plan, if he is seeing it, and if he is suggesting things or reacting to things or offering input, that's a problem. Because he has no business doing that. But again, I don't know if that's what's happening. We need to bring back Don Barclay. That's where we're at. More traditional fullback going to get work? Matt, I hope so. He got, 5 snaps? Maybe 3 snaps, I think, in this last game. I'd like to see him get a bit more. It's one of those things. It's kind of like what happened with Tanyan a couple weeks ago, where they have him in there for that initial series, and it kind of works, and you see him do some good work, and then you never see him again for the rest of the game. That kind of speaks to everything that was going on this year, where the openers are good, and then once it's time to actually call plays, it's like, okay, we're just going to go back to everything that doesn't work all the time. I don't know. Murphy seems to have entirely too much input. That it would be the prevailing feeling around 1265 Lombardi. Not meaning inside the building, but all of us looking in. But like I said to my good friend Homer on Twitter this morning, look, it's fine to question it. I totally get it. But the questions have been asked and asked and asked and asked. And I mean, they've been asked. Everyone is asked, right? Everyone's voiced their opinions. Now, can we please just let Mark Murphy make this hire and see what happens? Can we let it play out? I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to jump in and go, oh, this is terrible, this is awful, so that if it is terrible and awful, they can say, I said it was going to be terrible and awful. But good Lord, I'm sick of it already, and it's been like 3 days. Let's let him make the hire, see how it plays out. Sound good? Looks like that's a good place to leave it for this fine afternoon. Like I said earlier, please stop by for the Madden preview. We're doing it early this week on a Thursday rather than a Friday because Corey's flying out tomorrow. So later this afternoon, we'll have the Madden preview here on Cheesehead TV. Wherever you are, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, thank you so much for watching, consuming our content. If you like what you see, hear, any of the stuff that we do at Cheesehead TV, stop by our Patreon. Throw in a few bucks. We always appreciate the support. It helps keep us going and doing what we do. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you at the Madden preview. Have a good day.